Okay, we're all set, ready to go.
Okay, this is the Town Council meeting of North Branford, Connecticut, Tuesday, June 16, 2020. I'll read it again, the notice. Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B regarding COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting will be held remotely with no in-person attendance. And we're on Totucket TV / Facebook Live, 702-704. All right, let's start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Michelle, you want to do the roll call?
I do. Mayor Viglione.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Zampiano.
Here.
Councilor Angeloni. Here. Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Duty.
Here.
Councilor Fawnin.
Here.
Councilor Goad.
Here.
Councilor Paternoster.
Here.
And Councilor Policia.
Here. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, Michelle. Before we get started, I just want to say I had the fire department at my house yesterday, and Company 1 and Company 4 for my mother-in-law. She's 95 years old. And I just want to say they did what a great job they did. So, Chief, if you're there, I just want you to know that. They were fantastic with her. Okay, let me get started. I need the minutes of the previous meeting, June 2nd, 2020 WPCA and Town Council minutes. I need a motion.
So moved.
Oops, somebody's going to have to mute.
Whose dog?
Andy.
So there's just one correction. It's
Okay.
on page 8 of the minutes, 11 on our iPad. It's item 7C. So there's the motion, but there's no, the name of the counselor who made the second is not listed. Does anyone remember who made the second? Otherwise, we're gonna have to table. It was.
Which item was it?
It's 7C, it's awarding the construction management for the masonry repair to the auditorium to Al Rose. I made the motion, and it doesn't have who.
I believe I seconded that.
I thought you did too, okay.
Yes, I have Mayor Duty. I apologize. I will correct that.
Okay, so the correction should be on page 8, item 7C, it's seconded by Councilor Judy. That was the only correction that I had.
Okay, so did somebody make the motion to accept? Was that you, Rose?
Well, Marie made it, and then I seconded it with that correction.
Okay. Did you get that, Michelle?
I sure did.
Okay. Any other discussion? Can I have a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed?
Okay, we'll go into the town manager's report, COVID-19 update. Mike?
Right, thank you, Mayor. Starting with the COVID update, our numbers are holding steady at 83, no changes there, with 6 fatalities. That is same as we reported end of the week. I sent in some statistic or the graphs for you that provided by East Shore Health District, but it's a good trend. We're holding steady, and we'll continue to monitor. We have a weekly call Thursday mornings, looking for continued guidance through June to see what possibility we might have for loosening restrictions for the month of July. Obviously, the governor's handed out the phased-in approaches to other organizations and businesses, but I know some of the council members have asked about whether or not we could get back here into the chambers, considering the fact that there are only 9 members. You know, maybe possibly, you know, something could happen for July and getting us back into the chamber with appropriate spacing, distancing, and so forth. So I'll run that by the health department and see what they say as we move forward. Continue to monitor the numbers. As far as partial reopening plans, I talked about rec department and library as well. And on the rec department side, we just had the director start yesterday. So they're reviewing, she's reviewing, Jessica Catano is reviewing policies and the layout, and I think she's more comfortable in pushing out the reopening to July after the holiday, so she's had a chance to review policies and get her feet under her before opening up to partial reopening of the fitness center. And the fitness center presents some unique situation with respect to the guidance, wearing masks and not wearing masks. So they're going through that policy and those changes and reviewing the guidance there. And also looking at equipment and spacing and so forth. So there's a lot for her to digest and to undertake as they transition from Patrick Rossiter to Jessica. As far as the library is concerned, they are also putting plans together and are likely going to move back their plans to July 1st with a partial reopening, starting with a soft open for July 1st and 2nd, and obviously we have the holiday to be closed, and then trying to put some hours back in after that. And again, they're also concerned about just having the right modifications that they need to do in terms of spacing and numbers, in terms of the amount of people that may come in to use their services. So they're still working out their policy and procedures. And I should have more, or an update for you certainly, but July 7th meeting. But their position right now is to get everything in place to do a soft partial opening for July 1st. As you know, they started to, or rolled out their curbside, no contact curbside service, which is going very well for them. And I think that there are patrons that have called and asked about their opening. So they're trying to accommodate them, but doing it safely.
I have to say, Mike, I have to say, I've heard a lot of nice comments about that curbside book, picking up books. People are very happy about that.
Yeah.
I've gotten a number of
Thanks.
comments.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you for saying, yeah, because that's the feedback I've been getting, and it's been well received and been well done, well thought out. So it's, you know, just trying to provide the services. People are cooped up and want to, you know, want to be able to do something. So thank you for that. So I'll continue to monitor and work with Lauren Davis on the library side and with new director on the rec side and with respect to the fitness center, and the senior center side will continue to do meals, about 60 each day. We'll continue to do that. I don't think that we're going to proceed slower on the reopening, potential reopening, but there are other avenues that they are pursuing from a programming standpoint that will still keep our seniors safe, and that obviously is a vulnerable population, and so that's going to take a little bit more time, and we're going to have to monitor the numbers and see what health department says. But I'll continue to have this on my report, and hopefully more good numbers to report July 7th. That's it for COVID. Any questions?
No, I don't have anything. Okay, thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Next, we have Board of Ed repair at Jerome Harrison School.
Yeah, so this was a request that came in from Bill Chody on the Board of Ed side about an issue they have with repair work for a boiler over at Jerome Harrison. And he remembers we got into the last issue, I guess about a year ago, with a pump. I think it was a pump that needed repair, and we went out to bid and ended up paying a lot more than we should have, and he's requesting whether or not we can go through without a bid process. The quote is in your packet. It's obviously well over the 7,500 bid threshold, so we'd have to, by purchasing guidelines, put that out. But I know that there was a discussion, and Counselor Angeloni had asked me to look and review for the minutes of that meeting back to July 2019. There was a discussion from the council and an intent, I think, to try to amend or consider amending the purchase ordinance to allow us to not be able to use under repair a sole source. I don't know if this is a sole source or not, but under repair, in which we're just doing maintenance and repair, if we could continue to use the same approved vendor that we have, not necessarily approved by state contract, to be able to use that without going out to bid. And so I'm not sure that that's feasible, given our current language in the purchasing. There's certainly, it could be subject to amendment or revision to the ordinance, but that would take a whole public hearing process to do that. So as much as I'd like to help the Board of Ed out and be able to go right straight to the vendor and save some money and work on the quote, it is above our threshold, so I'm inclined to say that we're going to have to bid this unless there's some creative way to look at this that I may not be seeing at this point.
Mike, it's Ron. I could have sworn right before the election last year, so probably October, September, I'm almost positive the council voted on that and approved the change. Anybody else recall that?
I recall it.
I thought we did change it because
Pretty
it,
sure.
I mean,
Go ahead, Rose.
the whole idea was that, you know, they had to go out to bid, and they ended up paying somewhere $10,000 to $12,000 more, and the supplier who bid on it never touched the piece of equipment. They just had it shipped directly to Jerome Harrison, and that's what we're trying to avoid, is paying all that extra money to do this. And so I thought we did eventually go through with all of this, because I would hate that we have to do that again.
I think we did. I even think Attorney Marino commented on it and added language.
Well, I'll be happy to dive in. I just ran out of time today. I found the minutes back to the original discussion of July 19th, so I'll happy to put this on hold or talk with Bill, but I can go into the minutes and look at it and bring it back for the July, July 7th meeting.
Right.
And next meeting, and yeah, we can review and take action at that point, if there needs to be. If it's already a vote, then I can simply pass it out to the council if I discover that, and then it doesn't even have to come back to the agenda, and just let them go back out and purchase that. I don't think there's an issue of time, although I'll check with Bill on that.
Well, I know it's a water heater at Jerome, and it can, because of where the crack is, it cannot be welded and it cannot be fixed. So I know school's not in session right now, but it's something that does need to be repaired sooner rather than later. So I would just hate to keep delaying this so that they can get the part on it.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
I'll definitely take a look at that, and if that's the case, it's recorded in the minutes by vote of the council. We'll proceed with that, and I won't hold them up, and then just report out at the next meeting.
Okay, very good. All right, next, I have bond process review.
Yeah, this is a memo from Anthony, and I know he's joined us on this meeting, but I'd asked him after the meeting, just held off on the on dropping the agenda to late Friday, I guess it was. Just trying to get a sense of the whole bond capital projects process, and this is an attempt to try and help us sort through, the sequencing, if you will, of doing projects that ultimately lead to bonding and, capital type projects. So I don't know if there are any questions. Pretty straightforward, but there might be, and Anthony's available and on the call.
Okay. Anybody, any questions?
Yeah, I just think, at some point, we fitted in his point to the CIP plan, the list that we do later in the summer, so it should come, at some point, should make it to that list.
Okay, very good. All right, next is citizen statements and petitions and correspondence. Do you have anybody have anything, Mike?
I added 2 to the packet in the Dropbox that came in on both correspondence, both letters on item 7A, which is the solar project. So you should have those and in access to those with respect to the solar project 7A, and that's all the correspondence that I have.
Okay. Okay, next is resignations and appointments, and I have A is appointment of Robert Donnelly to Permanent Project Billing Committee as an alternate, term to expire 11/20/2020. I put this on there. I know the fella and is really interested in getting involved, so I figured we could get him started here, if that's all right with everybody. And I'll need a motion. I think you all saw his resume. I'll just need a motion if somebody wants to do that.
All right, I'll move to appoint him.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll
Second.
Okay, who seconded?
Lou.
Okay. Michelle, motion was made by Councilman Fornan, seconded by Councilman Pastanata. And any discussion? Any further discussion? No. Have a vote, please, Michelle.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go into old business discussion and action. The first is discussion of RFQ/P for North Branford Police Facility, Architectural and Engineering Service.
Right, so I prepared a memo for you and included both the old proposal from 2018 from Silver Petroselli and also a recent email on the subject talking about the LEED program in terms of sustainability for the building, which had not really come up yet in the discussion, was not part of factoring in the costs associated with pursuing a LEEDs designated building. So I invited Bill Silver and Brian Cleveland to join us for any questions you may have. But as I laid out in the memo, we're looking to get the project back on track with meetings with the North Branford PD Facility and Town Center Advisory Committee, where they were working previously to the whole COVID pandemic, and moving in the direction of the building final design tweaks and so forth at 305 Forest Road, formerly known as the Mooney property. So that's the suggestion at this point, to get back to the committee, take a look at the proposal, take a look at the LEED, and finish up what they need to finish up for that piece of property at 305 Forest Road.
Okay.
And so I guess what we were looking for was, if there's no objection to that, we'll do that, because I don't think this is this is one that you want for the ad hoc design review committee. You just want the committee that they've been working with to pursue the next phase and to look at, quite frankly, look and evaluate the lead, I think, come back with a recommendation back to the council with the modified proposal to carry this project through construction design documents. And I think that's the goal. If, but I'm, want to hear from the council. That's how we'll proceed.
Well, most of the members on the ad hoc committee, except for Bill Chody, are on the Town Center and Police Department Advisory Committee, so I'm sure they'll take a look at it. It's just like referring it to the ad hoc committee, but.
Okay.
I noticed under the compensation for Silver Petrozzulli, we're looking at approximately, $310,000 for construction documents and everything else going out to bid. And they had a item of construction administration. What exactly is that? Because I thought we had talked about having like a clerk of the works or something. So what would be different, their role from clerk of the works?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure if, I don't see, I know Brian, I can see Brian, but I'm not sure if Bill is on the call. And we did touch it, I don't know the full details, but maybe Brian can speak to that. But I think you're right, Rose. I think it's going to be more of the council's decision on whether or not they want Silver Petrocelli to carry out that function, or we're going to what's called an owner's rep on that, which might be a significantly lower fee than they have outlined there. I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong, but we could certainly pose that to them, and that could be part of the review that the advisory committee does with them as they talk about not only leads, but talk about this proposal and fine-tuning or amending this proposal and bringing back to the council for review and approval.
Okay, so we don't have to approve this tonight. It was for
No.
information purposes?
No, it's right. It's just to provide an update and guidance that we're going to send and convene the advisory committee once again and get this, back to looking at whether or not there's a recommendation for a lead or not, and also tweaking and revising, amending the proposal and bringing that back to the council.
Mike,
Yes, Marie.
can I suggest the 15th, since we were meeting on Wednesdays, on the 15th of July of that committee meeting?
Meaning keep that meeting date? Is that what you're saying?
Keep the meeting the way we were meeting in the past?
Sure, yeah. I think that's doable. I'll have Jessica.
I don't know, Mike,
I was going to have Jessica poll the members, but yeah, we'll start with keeping that date.
Mayor, it's Victor Peter Andrew. Can I talk for a second?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
The Lee for the building, is that for the energy to go high efficiency with everything on the building? Is that what you mean, Mike?
No,
Yeah, they had green gold or whatever, that's what I saw in there.
yeah.
Right, I thought we were just gonna do a standard building with everything that's gonna be energy efficient anyway with the new codes. That lease certification is gonna impact dramatically the costs. And being on Wallingford Electric and, they're talking about doing geothermal, and this town with all the rock around here and being so close to Tilcon, that Lee certification is really not fit for that building, and it's gonna impact the cost dramatically. But we did have the intent to go with everything LED, high efficiency, everything in the building, insulation, construction, to make it very energy efficient and compatible to the Lee. But that certification in our town is going to be hard to do without costing a ton of money. So be aware of that. And the commissioners and the board the building committee was under the impression that we were going to have our own people oversee the project and not any architect or engineer. We had the last say-so as a council. So just be aware of that and save us a ton of money on consultant fees that way too.
Yeah, good point. Mayor, it's Mike Paulus again. I just want to kind of echo on Victor's comments, but also give way to Bill Silver. I see Bill has joined the meeting. And not to be mistaken with LEED certification that I think Bill can speak to, but in no way, shape, or form does it mean that if we don't go for LEED certification that we're not going to have an energy efficient building. LEED is just the certification process, and I'll let Bill speak to that issue.
That's correct. Hi, folks. I'm Bill Silver, and no, we still design to a fairly high Connecticut energy code, which is probably one of the most stringent in the country regarding energy performance. The state of Connecticut has a next step up, which is called high performance buildings, which are mandated for our schools when there's reimbursement for more than $2 million. And it's a generic LEED process because the state did not want to endorse any of the green building groups that are out there as part of the process. And it is virtually a sanitized version of LEED. The state high performance process is virtually a similar checklist of everything from bike racks to showers to water saving devices that are higher than the energy codes. And then last but not least is LEED, which everyone recognizes. There's the element of pride that goes into winning the plaque or the emblem or the trophy that comes at the end of the process. And we have been through LEED silver and golds. The most one you may recognize is the Branford Fire Headquarters, which is a LEED gold facility. These are expensive processes, and the U.S. Green Building Council that manages those is a very tough process that requires professionals, not just within our group, but for the contractor as well, to manage the process from design all the way through to the end of construction. The LEED process can take as long as 2 years after construction is completed for the U.S. Green Building Council to award whatever LEED value they believe that we have earned. So LEED is a rigorous process, and it depends on your wishes to have that label as opposed to just a high performance energy efficient building, which it will be.
Bill, the commission and the building committee kind of voted to go in just a regular energy efficient building. Because if we were all, if we want a plaque on the wall, we'll go buy one. We don't want
Very good.
$1 million for one. And you could.
I agree.
Bill,
Okay.
Joe Fornin, a member of the council and totally ignorant on this subject. Why would we want this LEED certification aside from the plaque that means nothing to any of us? What does it do for us? Is there a savings? Is there some funding that we would be eligible for? What do we get for this to go through this procedure and wind up with this designation? Why do we do it?
There is no savings necessarily. Their standards are as rigorous as the Connecticut high performance, which is slightly higher than the building code. Why? It's usually pride and ego.
Okay, we can dispense with those.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Vic, and thank you, Bill and Joe.
Sure.
Okay. Any more discussion? Mike, you have anything else to say?
No, we'll work on the dates and get with Bill and get the meeting called and get it back to the advisory committee and work on the proposal and timelines. Bill is going to be working on that, and so we'll bring that back. There'll be a first order, and then we'll bring it back to the council.
And I apologize for being late. I was expecting to be at the end of the agenda.
That's okay, you're here.
You came in.
Okay, thank you, guys. Any more discussion? Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the next. Next is discussion review of fire department leases.
Yeah, I would suggest we skip that at this point, and I'd suggest that the council, if they're inclined to offer an amendment to the agenda, to add an executive session, so I can review with the council and get some guidance with respect to those negotiations.
Okay. For tonight, right, Mike? Executive session for tonight?
Right.
All right, see, in motion,
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Fawnin, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any more discussion? Any other discussion? All right, Michelle, sorry.
So this was to amend the agenda, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
to add executive
Yes.
session.
Add executive session, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay, we'll move into review of projects and scope of that.
Is everybody's Zoom meeting working well? Are the voices coming in for everybody there?
Yes.
Because everything's fading in.
I'm
Everybody's
okay.
clear?
Yes.
Yeah,
And you sound clear, Walter.
and we're hearing you perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting no video and I'm getting like a couple voices just in and out.
I think you can come in by phone if you need to, Walt.
Okay.
Walt, you have your video off.
That might be it.
I'm looking at you guys though.
I know,
We can't see you.
There he is.
Yeah, now
yeah, now
you.
he's on.
Thank you.
Yep.
There you go, there you go.
Gotcha, Walt.
Everybody's clear.
Okay, again, review of projects and scope ad hoc design review committee.
Yeah, so they met last week it was, and I put together a memo just to try to outline some of the procedural things that we need to clean up a bit, if you will. Simple things like the going back and reviewing the minutes. There was really no formal name to it other than just saying there'd be an ad hoc committee. With the intention was design review, so I called it and put out, the agenda for the first meeting, for the organizational meeting, as design review committee. So I just put together a suggested motion that you name it, but also in the minutes, the only formal motion you had to send any project was the high school project, and I believe the council had also looked at wanting to have them look at the auditorium, brickwork for the auditorium, and also for MBIS brickwork that's going to be scheduled or slated for next year. So there's a suggested motion if you want to clean that matter up, and for, if you want to call it something else.
Mike, the motion doesn't have the high school in it, though. Or are you saying it's already covered?
I'm gonna amend it. I'm gonna add that to the motion. I'd like to make a motion. I move that the newly created ad hoc committee be named the Ad hoc Design Review Committee, and that the town council hereby directs the school auditorium project and the North Branford Intermediate School brickwork project to the committee for review. Also, to include for the North Branford High School renovation project, that the committee reviews looking at just repairing the school, renovate as new, and build new.
Second.
Second.
Mike, was that
seconded.
you?
Yes.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Duty. Any further discussion? Okay. We have
I would just mention that at our meeting last week, we decided we're going to meet every other Tuesday, and next week we are going to meet at the high school. And we're looking for some information from when the architect made the presentation about the high school, that when he did the PowerPoint, that the committee have a paper copy of that PowerPoint.
Marie, did you get the results, yet from the borings?
No, we were told they weren't available, but I think they are. We did not get them though.
I do see that item on the Board of Ed's agenda for Thursday night.
And maybe you can get that for the committee for next Tuesday?
Yeah, Scott said that he mentioned the same thing, that he was going to release, I think, that for Thursday's meeting, Board of Ed meeting. So that should be available after Thursday. We can get that with the QA and M documents together for Thursday or Friday and get out to the committee for next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
So they do have the results, Mike?
I think they do, yeah, and my understanding is that they're going to present on Thursday, I believe. I haven't seen the agenda, but that's what I heard from Scott.
It is on their agenda for
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay, I have a question. I saw part of the meeting, Marie. Was there some direction that you guys need from the council? Because I talked about this yesterday to someone.
Well, I think it's been covered in that motion. We weren't, I guess Al Rose had checked with Lisa, and the only item in the previous motion was the high school, and we needed clarification in terms of the brickwork at the auditorium and at the MBIS. And I think that motion covers that.
Yeah, I spoke to a member of that committee, and Rose spoke to a member of that committee, and basically that's what they needed, was what was in the motion we made tonight with the additions.
Okay. All right, very good. Let me see where I am. Hold on a minute.
I don't know if anyone seconded that motion.
I think Mike Duty did.
Counselor Duty did, didn't he?
Okay, I did not hear him. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion?
Mayor, if I could, Mike Paulus here. Yeah, just back to the committee, the meeting. I think there was another discussion on deliverables and/or timing, so that, is the committee, what's their charge or scope to say they're going to design, review committee is going to go through and look at these, but I'm not sure they were clear, and nor am I, about the council's timeline in terms of reporting back or presenting, I guess, not so much making recommendation, but bringing back information to the council. And I don't know if that's a October, November deadline, September deadline, but they were inquiring.
Okay.
So
Well, I'd hate to put a deadline and say they have to be, if they're meeting every other Tuesday, I would imagine that they would have something for us by October. But if they don't, I mean, I don't want to penalize them if they're still working on it. I mean, they can just give us updates, but that's quite a rigorous meeting schedule that they have.
And I'm sure Marie could give updates because she at every meeting with us. So
Yeah.
we just review where they are.
We did talk about, hopefully by the fall, to have a recommendation in terms of the high school.
Okay, and the auditorium brickwork, I mean, that's happening now, so you can just update us if there's any issues. And the NBIS is not until next summer, so.
Right.
So as that comes along, they could just update us.
Okay. Michelle, where are we? We had a vote?
Nope, that was the end of the discussion, I would imagine, and then we can
Okay.
vote.
Okay, go ahead, whenever.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Next we have a statement by your town attorney on bond vote for police station. Ben, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
A little
hard.
Yeah.
I'll hold my computer up.
Okay, that's better.
My best. So I was asked to look at I was asked the question as to whether or not the vote last meeting was proper because of the way the matter was added to the agenda. If you recall, there was a motion to add to the agenda a discussion of the police station, and that was all that was added to the agenda. after or during that discussion, the discussion evolved into a vote to allocate $7.5 million toward the construction of the police station. The vote did not specifically say to bond for it, but I don't know how you allocate $7.5 million if you don't bond, because where are you taking it from? And when I reviewed the minutes, Police Commission Chair Victor Pediandria has a statement: if the bond is already in place, it provides incentive for competitive bidding based on the fair market value. There's another reference to a bond in the minutes. I believe Anthony Esposito, the bond process, if done in September, the CIP would be one lump sum for the 3 projects. Bonding would then be done in November. So it was unclear to me what exactly you all voted on. And in order to avoid the bond process, if that's what you did, being collaterally attacked or running the risk that it was not done properly, I thought out of an abundance of caution, we should treat that vote as a nullity, and you should either put the question on your agenda as to whether or not to bond $7.5 million for the construction of the police station whether you did it at tonight's meeting, because I believe it is on the agenda, or at a future meeting. I just thought it was the safest path to take, and it's my understanding that doing so does not in any way jeopardize the timing of this project. So since it doesn't interfere with the timing of the project, again, I thought out of an abundance of caution, we should take the more conservative approach.
Okay.
Anyone has
Thank
any
you.
questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I have a little problem with that. When we add something to the agenda, it's already under discussion and action. So the minute that Walter put it on the agenda, it's already for discussion and action. So there was no mention by Walter of bonding, because we find out that bonding is further down the street. So all we're doing is allocating, approximately $7.5 million to build a police station. So later on down the road, we add it to the capital improvements program, unless we add it to the capital improvements program now, and then Anthony works out a bond later. But there's no mention that you have to have a bond right away. And that's not what Walter put on the agenda. It was for discussion and action. It was the police department. He made the motion to allocate $7.5 million. We voted on it, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a valid vote.
I appreciate that, Councilman Duty. It's my recollection, I listened to the tape, it was to add to the agenda discussion of the police station. I don't believe it was discussion and action, but assuming it was action, that was, again, if you're allocating monies, it begs the question of where is the money coming from? And if you're saying we're gonna allocate $7.5 million, but we're not addressing the bond now, then at a future date, when you vote on the bond, I believe you've been predisposed on how your vote is gonna go. So, you're not supposed to prejudge matters prior to them being before you. And so I think you run the risk of, again, having a future vote being collaterally attacked. I don't see the concern here, because the project is advancing under the Petrocelli contract toward design, and you can absolutely retake that vote at a duly noticed meeting, and I believe you do have that on the agenda tonight. But again, I would caution, if you have a bond resolution that's going to come in the future, I'd rather see you vote on that, because the real issue is the money going to be available for this project? And if the answer is yes, where is it going to come from? And the answer is it's going to come from a bond. It's not going to come from an allocation.
From taxes. That's where it's going to come from.
So, to me, it's just being safe, because you never know who from the public is going to come and try. And the answer may be no one, but, you know, I always have to assume worst-case scenario.
Well, then we better change our procedure because we just made two add-ons to the agenda tonight.
You
For,
can, at a,
and,
sp-
and
at
then
a,
we
at a
never
regular
mentioned
meeting-
action. We
At
never
a regular
mentioned
meeting,
action.
you can add to the agenda.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what was added to the agenda, in my view, was only discussion on the police station. It was not discussion and vote on.
I appreciate your view, but my view, it was discussion and action.
I understand.
That's what's on the agenda. That's what we added it under. We added it under discussion and action, and that's how it sits. So I don't, you know,
Whatever the
my
will of the
opinion
body is.
differs from your opinion, you know?
Yeah, whatever the will of the body is, I just, as your counsel, I wanted to give
But
you,
there were 6 of us that voted in favor of it, and they all understood it, and that was the will of the body.
and if the will of the council is to disregard my concern, so be it. You don't, just because I've said something does not mean you have to listen to me. I felt it was my obligation as your counsel to raise this concern.
Ben, it's Ron Policia. Does, are we required to have any kind of public hearing before we take such a vote?
No.
Okay.
And again, that's why when you're talking about $7.5 million, which is a matter of community significance, I would think you'd want to have that noticed at a meeting. So if anyone from the public was interested in it, they'd be able to come out and address you during public participation. Again, this is not a public hearing. You're not obligated to do that, but you know, it's not like you're, you know, spending $100,000 on a dog park. You're spending a substantial amount of money, but more importantly, you're not delaying the project at all. The project is advancing under the Petroselli contract toward design. So, you know, taking my view is not going to affect the timing of the project. But again, that's my opinion. You're not obligated to accept my opinion.
So in light of that, if we're not delaying anything and everything's moving forward, then it seems reasonable to use the caution and based on what Vin's recommended. I mean, I don't understand why.
Well, it's on the agenda tonight, and if Walter wants to make the motion again, then we'll vote on it.
So we can do that tonight because it's on the agenda the way it is?
Yes,
It is on the agenda.
and that'll clear it up, Walter.
Do we have to withdraw? Is there any formal withdrawal of the last vote, Vin?
In my opinion, again, it's a nullity based upon my view that there was not an addition to the agenda to consider an act on allocating $7.5 million when to the police station project. When I looked back, it was simply an addition of discussion. It was not so if you accept my view, then I believe it's a nullity as a matter of law.
Ben, it's Ron again. If we do make another motion and take a vote on this tonight, do you have any recommendations as far as verbiage and anything that should be changed in the motion itself that would make things a little bit more smoothly for that other bonding vote?
I'm just trying to see where you are on the agenda. Because what I can do is I can look back at another bond package. Because again, ordinarily when you're making motions related to the bonding process, we get bonding counsel involved because the resolutions have to be done in a specific way. If you want to proceed tonight, I can look back in my files, on my electronic files, to see if I have something that is specific for the adoption of a bond. Now, I don't think it's anything terribly magical, so if I can't find something, I'll be happy to assist you at that time.
Vin, before we get involved in a bond, we have approximately 2 other projects that could be bonded this year. Yep. Under that same bond. So I can't see committing to a bond yet now when we have 2 other large scale projects that could possibly be bonded also.
So it would just be a revote of the, like a motion to allocate $7.5 million?
Yes.
That was my intent, to allocate the money.
Well, can't we say that we're going to bond for the project and that the bonding will be set at a later date?
I mean,
that's how you're allocating the money. Your intention is to allocate by bonding.
I don't know if it's a feel-good motion, because again, I don't know what effect that motion does, except express a positive, a positive disposition of the body to be in favor of this project. And if that's your intent, you adopt a resolution to say the town council supports the construction of a new police station in an amount not to exceed $7.5 million. Okay, it's a resolution. It doesn't necessarily bind you to adopt a bond, whatever the feeling of the body is at that point. So I don't know ultimately what the motion that you're contemplating making tonight, what it gets you, because it doesn't bind you at a future meeting. But if you want to do it, you can do it for whatever purpose it is intended. But if it's, again, I don't know what the intent of that motion is.
Can I just make 2 points, please? And I understand I'm in the minority on this issue, and I understand where the majority is, and I understand where this is going. So I'm not speaking against what you're trying to do. But there's 2 things I want everybody to be aware of. First of all, bond counsel, by their very nature, are the most anal animals you are ever going to meet. And I don't care what Vin drafts, if it is as good as the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution rolled in one, they are going to redraft it and insist that we adopt a resolution with their verbiage, verbatim, before they will go forward with closing a bond on behalf of the town. So you are going to see a resolution prepared by bond counsel that we have to approve to get them to do their job and make the money available. Secondly, why would we ever think of cramming something like this down the throats of the taxpayers without putting it on our agenda? And by the way, I don't see it on our agenda. We've said it's there, but I don't see it there, but maybe I'm wrong. Why do we cram taxpayers' throats without putting it on the agenda, giving them an opportunity to come out and tell us we're right, wrong, or indifferent, and let them voice their concerns, and then do what we're going to do? It makes no sense to do otherwise. I'm done.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, I will tell you, my intent was to just make sure that the police station does go through. That was my intention, to make sure we make the commitment to do it. That's my intent, to make sure that it happens.
That's under 7G, Walter.
Right, it's on the agenda.
I don't have a 7G.
Well, it was a revised.
Revised agenda.
Gotta look at your revised agendas.
You guys are sneaky.
But I just have to make a comment. I guess from what I'm hearing from everybody, or not everybody, but some key points here, is that we may make a motion here, we may vote on it, but doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't accomplish anything.
That's what I'm getting to.
So how do we accomplish something where we make a commitment to absolutely build this police station?
I think when we get into the architectural drawings, that was the next. I'm backtracking now, and thinking back of what's happening. We're going out for architectural drawings, and then I think at that point, it's going to be time. We might have to bond money then, or commit to a bond. This is what I'm being told is in order to go out and get bids.
If I can, I think you've already indicated that you're in favor of a new police station by entering into a contract with Petroselli.
Right.
Right,
Right.
So
yeah.
I think, again, if you wanted to adopt a resolution that says the town council's in favor of advancing the police construction project, again, you've already entered into a contract, which I think speaks for itself, that you're in favor of advancing the project. So, you know, and I would imagine that you're gonna go, when you go out for bond, that's the time where you're going to affirm that you're in favor of this project, because presumably you're going to vote in favor of a bond or not. If you vote in favor, you're in favor of the matters that the bond is intended for. So, you know, again, I don't think at the moment anyone is articulating that they're not in favor of the project. And I think the council has spoken by entering into the Petroselli contract that it is in favor of the bond, of the police station.
Mayor,
Vin,
it's
it's-
Victor
Vin,
Peter
it's Ron.
Andrea, could I speak? Oh,
Vin, hang on one sec. I mean, Peter, just give me one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Vin, can you just tell us a little bit more about what you said about when it comes to the bonding vote, if we make a resolution vote or any kind of a vote tonight, and it's kind of like making a decision ahead of time and how that can affect that other vote? You alluded to that earlier. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Generally speaking, when you come in to make votes, you're not supposed to you're not supposed to have a predisposition or a bias toward the vote. You know, again, this comes up more in the public hearing process, but again, because this is a matter of great community significance, you're borrowing $7.5 million plus whatever you're adding for the other projects. I think the process should be as pure as possible, because I don't think the vote to allocate monies has any meaningful significance other than making maybe some people feel good about it. I would rather, when the bond comes to the table, have that be your first and only vote on the matter. Because otherwise, again, I doubt it would be an issue, but arguably if someone wanted to be creative and try to get some type of declaratory judgment that 6 out of 9 of you had prejudged the bond because you had voted earlier on a motion to allocate $7.5 million. You know, it's a creative argument. It comes up more often in zoning and in wetlands than it does before council. But again, I just want to caution you, particularly because I don't think the will of the body is in opposition to this. And I know that it's frustrating that this government doesn't move fast, but no government moves fast by design. And, you know, the project is advancing. So it's not that the project's not advancing.
Question I have, can I speak, Mayor?
Go ahead.
What is the purpose then of doing architectural drawings, spending $300,000 plus? When you go out to bid, well, let me finish, Vin. All right. In other words, if I was a contractor, it's going to cost between $15,000 and $20,000 for me to bid that project. Okay. If there's no money and the bond is not set before the drawings are done, why would I bid that project? How do I know the town's going to go forward? There's no commitment. My contracting company would not spend 15, 20 grand if there's no bond or there's no commitment in place for the $7.5 million. So what is the purpose?
It begs the question, Victor, when is the time to, you know, you don't do the bidding process to do the construction before you have the money. I agree, because you do not enter into a contract. A municipality doesn't enter into a contract when it doesn't have the funds available. So what they're going to do is they're going to bring this to a design phase. Council's going to look at the design. Council's then going to approve a design or say this is not the design we want. Once it approves the design, presumably at that moment, when all the numbers are fixed through that design process, because as we sit here today, we don't know if our experts, our engineers, and our architects are, maybe $7.5 million is not enough. Maybe it's 8.1. Council's gonna have to make a decision whether or not they want to add that to the bond or not. So you're right, that no contractor is gonna bid, but no municipality should put out a bid if it doesn't have the money. So I think the bonding process comes into being after the design has been established and the costs have been fixed.
How are you gonna get the
Exactly what
cost?
you need to bond for.
How you gonna, so let's just rewind the tape because maybe I missed something. How are you gonna get fixed costs, which we already have? They already did the schematics, they gave us the budget. How are you gonna get fixed costs without sending it out to bid?
Because your architect and design is going to put together and help us put together a bid, and based upon their design, I don't know how you have the expenses and costs for something that has not yet been designed.
Well, they gave us the
You have
budget.
estimates.
They gave us the numbers.
They gave us the numbers.
But it has not yet been designed. So you don't know, until it's actually designed, how do you know that it's actually gonna cost that?
Based on what they put in there, they put in the building, the foundation, the construction, the site drawings, the fundamentals of the roof, the HVAC, all that is incorporated, and I'm sure Bill is on the phone with us. So what I'm saying is, that's fine, but you have 2 to 3 months to do drawings, then 2 to 3 months, by the time you get bonding, you know, that's fine, but why even spend the money at this point, Vin?
Because from a process standpoint, again, until I have the money as a municipality, I don't, how do it would be against my advice to enter into a contract if you did not have the monies available to pay for that contract.
So then
Otherwise, if the bond was rejected for some reason, let's assume worst case scenario that you could not get the bond, and I know that's probably not gonna be the case. You would be binding the taxpayers to pay a $7.5 million expense. So.
Can we?
Wait,
can
hold
we-
on. Let me finish that phrase, Ron, if you give me a minute.
Go ahead.
I get all your points. So, Vin, let me ask you a question. Maybe your email could have addressed, maybe we should go for the bond first and then do this $300,000 to make sure we have the money to spend $300,000 plus with the architects to continue forward. So it's kind of like we got the cart first and the horse we forgot about.
But that was up to council, and if they were willing to spend $300,000 to get to the design phase to advance it, that was their right, and that's what they did. So now the issue is, do you want to go out for bonding now? And the short answer is, I heard no, because there are other projects we're going to roll into that bond. So if the design is going to take 3 months and the bonding is going to take a couple of months thereafter, so I think Anthony had given us a date. If it was done in September, it might be done by November. You know, the issue then is putting together the RFP, which will be done with the help of, presumably, if you pick Petrocelli for that.
Right.
It'll be put out to bid in the ordinary course, and you'll get your bids back, and you'll make your decision.
Right, so basically, your answer was to the council, it wasn't holding up the project. I don't see what the issue is, but technically it is gonna hold up the project for quite a bit of months. Because now you got
the design is going forward.
The design's going forward, but the construction won't go forward.
Right, but
No,
they're not going out to
hold
bond.
on a second. Hold on a second here. This is exactly how a project works. You design it, and then you get the cost for the design. You can't have the cost before the design.
That's what we did, Tom. We had the design done. They gave us a preliminary. They put contingencies at $7.5 million. So what I'm asking is, what we got, was it correct? Because we went through it for 2 years, and we have schematic drawings. We got detailed schematic drawings, and their budget said $7.5 million with contingencies, with plan, with everything in there. We fine-tuned it. That's what I'm saying. We're going, when they go to construction drawings, when they're done, the next step is to go out to bid.
So what I'm saying
Victor,
is, right,
Victor,
yeah,
excuse me one second.
Go ahead.
We might be able to get Bill Silver's on the call. Let's ask Bill, the 7.5, was that, like a really good estimate, or is that a hard number? And I think that hopefully he can try to clear that up for us.
Bill, are you there?
I think I saw that up.
He's talking to someone, but.
I could potentially speak to this. This is Brian Cleveland with Silver Petroselli Architects. It was actually
Go ahead, Brian. Go
the
ahead.
meeting that we discussed the budget of the $7.5 million for the project. That $7.5 million is based on an assumed square footage for the building at roughly 14,000 square feet, with a rough per square foot cost estimate for constructing a new building, a new police department building. So we assumed that it would be somewhere around $400 a square foot for a police department to be built. And that's what we used as the basis to establish the 7.5. In addition to the hard cost of building the building and doing all the site improvements, that 7.5 also would include the architect's fees and any other soft costs associated with the project.
To give you a sense, though, the estimates that were produced were truly, those schematic estimates are generally within 10% of what we hope are the bids that come in, and then all the soft costs really don't vary that much. So our confidence of the 7.5 million is good, if not high, but it's only schematics. During construction documents, which we still have to finish the schematic design phase because we haven't designed the one-story 14,000 square foot building for the Mooney property yet. Once we finish the schematics and get into construction documents, at the end of construction documents, for bidding, we will produce that detailed estimate that has a much more element of finesse and finality to it, that some towns do go to bonding based on those architects' estimates and then all the other costs and contingencies on top of it. So towns have bonded based on architects' construction documents. But in the same breath too, some towns choose to wait until after bidding. And yes, Victor, you're right. Some contractors may not bid on it, but we find that if they sense that confidence is high, that the council is behind the project, if not literally bonding it, they will not cause them to pause in submitting bids. So there are so many different ways of you folks funding this project, but we still owe you a detailed construction document level estimate at the end of CDs.
question I have for you. We got a 14,000 square foot building, 7.5 million, including your fees is $535.71 per square foot. It's not $400. So the estimate in there at that rate is pretty comfortable to a $7.5 million building. Am I correct? Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
I don't want the council to think that the building committee or the police commission or anybody that was working on this project or the public, that we didn't spend the 2 years properly going through this. It's $535.71 per square foot at 14,000 square feet, including the fees for the architects and engineers at $7.5 million. That's all
Victor,
I'm saying. Yeah.
Victor, it's Ron, and we know you guys did your legwork, and that's why a lot of us are very comfortable on moving forward with this project. But going off of what Bill said, 10% could push us up to $8 million, and I think there's no reason to do what we're trying to do right now until we get final numbers, and then we go for bonding. It's almost like
Ron, I agree with you. I would pull it off. I think that the attorney is correct, but what I'm trying to tell you is, do not go out to bond or do whatever you guys want to do, and do not go out to bid until you get that bond. Right now, with money being as tight as it is, you're going to lose all the key players that can make that building done correctly and cheaply in this economy
only because they're not sure what's going on with the towns. Nobody's gonna waste $25,000-$30,000, and Bill could tell you how much it costs to bid one of these projects and the amount of labor that goes into it. You gotta just, if you're gonna get the construction drawings, get it fine-tuned, and then get the bond, and then go out to bid. It's just gonna delay the project, but if you wanna do it, then do it the right way, all the way out.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, let's
Go ahead.
stay on track here.
Yeah, go ahead. You're right. I was just gonna say that. You're right. We hired the town attorney to figure out stuff like this and gave us his opinion. We have Bill Silver, he gave us his opinion. And this project is moving forward. I thought it was going fine at the last meeting. I don't want to hold the whole thing up, and I don't want to hold any of the projects up. But I don't want to make any mistakes along the way either. I'd rather take things a little slow. And I don't know how everybody else feels. But it's not that I don't want a police station. I talked to you guys about this already. I'm not against the police station. I don't want any mistakes made. And I just think we should go slow. When you do things quickly, you make mistakes. I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say. I don't know what the rest of you have. The rest of you people have.
What may help, and I don't know if we can do it tonight or for the next meeting, but to give comfort that this is moving along, if we can get a timeline of from the Petroselli group to
Right.
say, this is when we should have X to you, Y to you. So because that's really the vote on allocating money is not advancing the project per se. What you want is a timeline so that all right, this is the date by which we can go out to bond. Because if you're going to roll other projects into it, you got to have those projects on a similar timeline so you have final numbers for going out for
Right.
bond.
That makes sense to me.
You're going to be bonding separately. So if we can get a timeline on, when we're going to be at the next step, again, I think that is more meaningful than making a vote on allocating $7.5 million. Because I think the goal here is to advance the project.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, I agree. How does everybody else feel about that?
Vin, there's no problem with advancing the project, but Silver Petroselli still has fees that have to be addressed. Construction design, schematic design, stuff like that. So they have to have an account to work off.
Sure. No, they absolutely have to be paid, and presumably the town has the money to pay that, and that's why we entered into the contract. If it's going to come out of the bond, then it'll come out of the bond at the time the bond is. So I don't know how, I would defer to the town manager on how that's getting paid or the finance director. But one way or the other, obviously the Silver Petroselli is going to be paid.
Hey, Mike, this is Dave Palumbo, duty.
Good.
Why don't, Mr. Mayor as well, why don't we get the building committee, Mike Paulus, back on track as soon as possible and start this process moving forward so we can get with Petroselli Group and have Bill and Brian there to start to get this process back on track with us and get you guys the answers that you need quicker than later. So everybody's more comfortable, everybody understands where we're going and the direction we're in.
That makes sense to me. I don't know. How do you guys feel about it?
I think we beat this one up. I mean,
Don't want to make.
We've been beating this thing up for 7 years. So if Mike Paulus can get us back on track with the building committee and our group, maybe we can get this thing moving forward, and everybody at the council level. I truly believe everybody at the council level wants to see this forward. But again, yeah, we don't want to make mistakes. And if we can get this on track quicker than later, it might make everybody feel a little more comfortable.
So Mike, work on the July 15th meeting.
Well, why don't can you have a meeting next week so that we can have something for the July 7th meeting?
We could have a meeting tomorrow.
Right, that's what I say. We should have a meeting as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Mike Paulus can get that set up, we can get a meeting, as early as, this week or next week, when everybody's available. Tomorrow's Wednesday, if we get it together for early next week.
Yeah.
Well, then, that would be the 24th.
Whatever the group can do. Mike Duty, do you think that's acceptable? And Mike Paulus, we can get that on track?
Yeah,
My calendar's open.
Yeah, it's just about availability, and I'll poll the members and Bill and Brian and we'll do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, put a couple of meeting dates out as soon as possible. We'll get Bill and Brian Petrozelli's there and start this.
And then see, hopefully you have some information for our next meeting is July 7th. So if you have 1 or 2 meetings prior to that you can try and narrow down some stuff and get us information for July 7th, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, well, that's certainly, I would think, if we can get Petrozelli's there, it gives us a couple of weeks, Rose, which will give us some time to get our facts in order with those folks.
What questions are you guys looking for so I could write them down?
Well, I think you could take that offline. Can't we just send the questions?
Yeah, I was just going to say, why don't you guys get the questions to us or to Mike Paulus in the next day or so from your group, from the council, and forward it to Mike Paulus and get it off to us. So we're all on target.
Okay.
You agree with that, Tom?
Yeah, I just think we just need to move on, and we'll just put that. I don't think we need to be continued on that discussion. We'll just send you the questions or the items that need to be answered or addressed, and carry on that way.
Yeah, and I think we could have a couple of meetings before your next council meeting and have some definitives for the council as a whole from our building.
Okay, all makes sense to me. Everybody all right with this?
I think we're going in the right direction.
I think so too.
You know where we are on the agenda, Bob?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Wait a minute. Yes, I do. All right. Okay. So if this is the case, what are we doing with discussion and funding on police department building project?
We'll table it.
Well, we aren't to that item. When we get to that item, we can just table it.
Okay. I just want to make sure before I get down there. Okay, I think everybody used their head. I think it worked out great, and I think we're moving in the right direction. And I feel most of the people on the council want a new police station. So I don't think there's any problem with that. We'll see when that comes up for a vote. But I think it worked out very good, and I'm very happy with everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We ready? New business discussion and action. Discussion on solar power project with Citrine Power. Michael, what do you have on that?
Yeah, we have a guest, and Chella is with us, Bernie, and Roger Salway from Economic Development, and been working on this project, and she wants to make a presentation to the council. The black and white paper is in your packet to follow along. I'm not sure, Chella, you want me to share the screen for the presentation, or do you just want to walk through, because they have the presentation in printed format?
Either way is fine by me, whatever is easier for you guys.
Okay. I can share the screen if you want, or do you want? What would you like?
Sure.
Share it.
Why don't you do that, Mike? Yeah. Why don't you do that?
I'll just give a 5-second overview about our company. I also have one of our very trusted engineers that make everything happen for us from All Points Technology, Brad Parsons. He's listening in, and if you have any technical questions, you can always ask the expert. I invited him to the conversation as well. My company is Citrine Power. We are a developer of medium to large scale solar projects in the Northeast. We're a Connecticut company. our focus points or states are, as I said, in the Northeast, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. We're agnostic between ground-mounted systems, rooftop systems, and carport systems. Currently, we have more ground-mounted systems for economies of scale. So that's a little bit of our background. I've been in this business for 15 years. We have been in operation with Citrine Power for 2.5, 3 years, and we've had early success. We know what we're doing in Connecticut, which is not, it's not an easy market to navigate from a variety standpoints, but it's, you know, we can explain that to you. And with that, I will go to our presentation, but just a little bit of an overview. We are contemplating a 2.5 megawatt project, ground-mounted solar system on 127 Forest Street. That is currently, you know, some part of it needs to be cleaned because of deep, and the other part of it is farmland, and we can go about that. We've been talking about this for a while. I would like to thank Mike and Roger very much for actually making it happen for us to be able to present to you. I know it's been a very busy time, and they've made the time for us to present to the Sustainability Committee, to EDC, and now to the Town Council. So I appreciate very much for making the time. We're not going to take too much of your time. So I will share my screen and see what happens here.
Okay. Mike, did you ever want to put anything up on the screen?
Yeah, Chelly's going to do it from her end.
Can you
Yeah.
see my screen?
Okay.
Yes.
Can you see it now? Hold on, let's see if we can do view. I guess, how do I go to presentation? Slideshow, I think. Right from the start, let's see if I can. All right, so I told you a little bit about us. You know, we're in the Northeast. We have some Midwestern assets as well. We've been in this market for a while. And so I will skip about why we're so great and move quickly to the Connecticut Virtual Net Metering Program. In a nutshell, there's something called virtual net metering that was intended to come up with a program so that I guess real estate owners or power off-takers, end users who are not able to put any solar systems on their residences or on their own buildings, either because they don't have the capital or because they don't have the proper rooftop or ground-mounted area. There's something called virtual net metering for such folks, regardless of who they are, residences, entities, commercial entities, municipalities, to take advantage of renewable energy. Virtual net metering has been around for a very long time, especially in the Northeast, also on the West Coast and the Midwest, but in the Northeast, Massachusetts has been in the forefront of it for years now. I think we've been in the virtual net metering market in Massachusetts for almost 10 years, very aggressively. And same thing in New York, the last probably 8 years or 6 years, they've been in this market. New Jersey is just picking up. Connecticut has a very small virtual net metering program, and it only the audience is only municipalities, farms, and state-owned organizations. So how does it work? We go and lease a piece of property. We typically like to, for ground-mounted projects, we like to go about 10 acres, which more or less fits a 2 megawatt system. That's our sweet spot for economies of scale. We typically enter into an option and a lease agreement with a private landowner that we think, whose property is suitable. And that property owner gets a revenue stream, a very long-term revenue stream. Once the project is online, it's just a lease payment, regardless of what kind of power we sell, who we sell to. It doesn't really matter. The landlord, basically, we're just a tenant there, and we pay them a lease. Once we lease that property, we go, during the option period, we go about investigating 3 things. One of them is in Connecticut, we're either in Eversource or United Illuminating territory, and we have to wheel our power through their distribution lines, the poles that we see on the street. So we have to give them, we're just another power plant for Eversource and UI, so we have to give them the power somehow, and they have to take it since we're an intermittent energy source, they have to go through studies to make sure that they can take our load. And 2 megawatt is again another sweet spot where we think the utilities are able to take that through the 3-phase lines on the streets, and it doesn't really cost a lot of upgrades, even though we still have to pay them to upgrade some of their system. The second thing that we have to investigate, and Brad can talk to this at length, is all of the environmental and civil investigation. In Connecticut, we're lucky that we have the Siting Council, and if you have a project that's less than 1 megawatt, which is about 4 acres, you can choose to go to local permitting. If you're above that 1 megawatt threshold, you have to go to the Siting Council. And it's to the benefit of everybody because there's no stone unturned. It's months and months of studies of endangered species, soil data, wetlands, because we cannot encroach or put anything, animal studies, their natural habitats, so that we're not disturbing anything. We stormwater management plans, archaeological studies if we need to with SHPO. So we do a ton of studies. It's a little bit more expensive, it's a lot more involved, but again, there's no stone unturned from an environmental perspective. Everything is investigated, and along the way, if there's if you will, a deal killer or a project killer, we'll uncover that instead of going through the construction. Or if there's things that we have to be careful, we present a management plan to the Siting Council. So that's one of the more important things that we have to go through the permitting process. And then the third one is actually how are we going to get paid, which is one of the reasons why we want to talk to you about how do we make money, right? We lease, we pay the landlord, we go through all the permitting, we pay Eversource or UI, wherever we are. In your case, we're in UI, to actually connect to their lines. How does our revenue come through? Because we have to get paid for the power that we actually sell to Eversource. With this virtual net metering, the Connecticut, legislation has made it beneficial, as I said, to farms, municipal entities, as well as state entities. The way it works is for every kilowatt hour that we actually wheel to Eversource's lines, if we have a contract with a host municipality, Eversource and UI says, okay, you're working with the town of North Branford for this project. Virtually, we will actually give credits, dollar credits for every kilowatt hour that Citrine Power System gives to us. We will give a credit to North Branford's accounts, which currently, as of right now, as you know, I mean, you're in UI territory, majority of you probably, if you're not in Longford, it's about 20 cents a kilowatt hour. They pay at the very top rate. And that's great. The town essentially is lowering its bills. For every kilowatt hour that we pass on, North Branford school systems, municipal buildings, whichever accounts that we choose, they're getting a discount on their bill. Of course, we need to get paid for that too. So the way it works is that the towns that we work with, they pay us a discounted version of the credit that they take. So typically, if they get 20 cents from United Illuminating, call it, they pay us 13 cents. The 7 cent per kilowatt hour difference for every kilowatt hour that we actually pass on to UI is your savings. So this is just another depiction. There's our landlord. So currently we have an option agreement with the owner of 127 Forest Street for about 10 acres of property, which is going to be 2 megawatts. We already applied to United Illuminating to see if they will allow us to actually wheel our power through their system, and how we're going to get the 3-phase to in front of the property and upgrade that whole pole line. They're okay with it. They're doing their studies. We still have a little bit of time because of COVID. They're going late, but I think we're going to be okay. And then we have to apply for the incentive to be able to be eligible for virtual net metering. It sounds like it's too good to be true, and we've talked about this in other meetings. It is too good to be true, and it is supposed to actually be beneficial for municipalities, and that's why it's a very limited program. There's a huge wait list, especially in Eversource territory. There's a wait list in United Illuminating territory as well. Every year it's a fight. we want to expand it as the, independent power producers and developers, and then UI and Eversource and Pura, they're kind of working through it and saying, oh, maybe we shouldn't be expanding it. It is what it is, it's kind of, the nature of our business, always give and take between the utilities and ourselves. This specific project that we're contemplating in North Branford is also going to benefit one of the oldest dairy farms in town, one of the farms in town. They're also going to get credits because we participated together with them as a farm and municipality under that program. But we're not going to ask them to pay us because we want to help the farm, and plus their consumption is so little that we figured that we're going to help one of the local farms here and give them the savings. We wanted to, so I will stop because I talked a lot and I will have you ask questions, but I think from the high level, from a town's perspective, this is it's a great situation because we're not using any of your properties. You're not spending any money. If we can't get any of our permits, we can't get through United Illuminating, no farm, no foul for you. Like, you have nothing to worry about. You only will pay us a discounted version of what United Illuminating is paying you after we're operational, all of our permits in place, everything is in place, and you're getting your credits. And if for some reason our equipment fails, our equipment doesn't work, we're not producing anything, you're not getting any credits, you don't pay us, right? Obviously, if United Illuminating is not going to give you anything for power that's not been produced, you're not going to pay us either. And then the beauty of it is, if you're buying your power through a consortium, through a third-party marketing company, or you have, Direct Energy is giving you a little bit less, you're signing it on an annual basis, you can actually still keep on doing that. This is on top of it. This is a question that comes up all the time. I was just explaining it to the town of Portland, actually, because they were worried, should we not do our power contract? No, keep on doing your power contract, keep on doing efficiency measures, changing light bulbs, everything. This is in addition. And then there's flexibility. The flexibility is such, for example, God forbid, one of the schools, let's just talk about a positive experience. One of the schools is super efficient. It's not, consuming anymore. It doesn't have a very big electricity bill, but you created a new, town hall. Or you can't take all of it anymore, like a third of it, of the 2 megawatts, you're very efficient. You're not going to take it. We can sell it to another town. For example, I'll go to an example that we actually went through. This is our project in Middletown and Middlefield. The one on the left is what, All Points Technology actually drew for us, and the right is the reality. So they're very close. The permit sets and the reality. This is a 10-acre site. There's a 7-foot chain link fence. This is Route 66, and there's a Dunkin' Donuts here. If you know, there's Agway right here, and it's a little bit set back. It's surrounded by wetlands all over here and all over here. So as you can see, we have a setback line. We're not encroaching. We didn't do anything. This was a great site because it's sloping north-south. It's like the perfect site that you can ask for. It was farmland, and we didn't have to cut any trees except for like a little bit of brush in here. And we really like the property in North Branford as well, because again, we're not going to be cutting any trees. There's some wetlands, but we're going to be staying away from it. And we understand that that property in 121 Forest has had cleanup issues with DEEP. They've already cleaned the portion that we're going to be on. They will use some of the lease money, hopefully, to clean the rest of the property that is more towards the residential pieces. We're not going to be seen from the residences. That's pretty much it for now. We have other projects. We have another project in East Hampton. We're starting a construction hopefully in a month. This is our project in Portland, another one in Middletown. These are just examples of our work. So
do you have a diagram of where this proposed site is for North Branford?
Yes, I do. I actually, right here. Here we go. Can you see it?
No.
No, you have to reshare it.
Oh. Resume share. Hold on. Oops. Oh, I don't know why it's not doing it. Hold on for a second. Stop. I'm going to stop it. And I'm switching gears here. Screen. Oh yeah, I have to pick the other. Okay. All right. Now it's going to work. All right. Can you see it now?
No.
Huh.
I can
Now?
see it.
Yeah.
Now? Okay, perfect.
Well, I see something, but I'm trying to figure out where it is on Forest Road.
It's right on Forest Road behind that farmhouse.
It's like between Forest Road and this is Larry Augur's barn.
This is Larry Augur's farm. This is also Larry Augur's farm.
So when you drive down Forest Road, instead of seeing farmland, you're gonna see a solar farm.
Instead of seeing all the sunflowers, you're gonna see all the solar.
That's not necessarily entirely true. Here's, I'll tell you why. We've actually been talking with Larry Augur. We want to, we can put screening right here. So when you're around the whole system, we usually put a fence, and we can also put vegetation actually. And there are cases that you won't even be able to see. We do want the planting to actually continue, the sunflower seeds to be planted around it as well. We like to create a pollinator path, unless the town really wants to do the sunflower. And some towns want it to be seen because it's a tourist attraction, people stop. Some towns don't want it to be seen, then we put screening. So there's a way for us to disguise that pretty well. I don't know, Brad, if you're still on, you can maybe talk about that too.
There's no way you're gonna go high enough to hide that with screening.
Yeah, this is Brad Parsons with All Points Technology Corporation. There's a couple things that we can do from a screening standpoint. The top of the panels usually are around 10 feet or so. We're still looking at this site, but we'll do a full, as part of our siting council package, we'll do a full view shed analysis. So not only will we just look at it from Forest Road, but we will look at the entire area where this may be seen from, and do everything in our power to minimize the screening. Sometimes we'll do a vinyl fence with slats in addition to some vegetation, so that way you've got a little more screening during maybe some of the winter months, or there's even the possibility of doing some combination of an evergreen planting up against the fence, and maybe even the sunflowers in front, so you've kind of got a multi-year vegetation around the site. So there are a couple different options, and usually depending on who we're working with the landowners, with the butters, with the towns, on what they would like to see. It's very flexible, and then we'll even go through the process of doing a photo rendering. So we'll take some shots along the street there and give those views and kind of show what it will look like from in that final state or finished state as well.
Another thing, this is just a very accrued rendering, by the way. It's not really to scale. It just kind of shows you how it's all going to work. When we were talking with the EDC, they had excellent ideas about possibly creating a little like a canopy structure here, like a raised structure at the front. And we were kind of contemplating it could be a town farm stand. Some of the I don't know if you have a farmer's market or anything to that effect. It can be used as, shading from the elements, or if you wanted to do anything educational for kids, the school kids can use it. We can also create, we typically do that if the towns wanted, a curriculum. We were talking about it with Liz, and she's very receptive to it. In the STEM program, we can actually create, once the system is built, actually, not during the construction time, but the high school kids come and, our engineers can walk them through, they can give them tutorials. We can also do some classroom education as well. Typically, a lot of the savings that come from these projects are beneficial to the schools, because the schools are the largest consumers of power, and it goes typically to offset their bills. And I just wanted to add something about the virtual nature of this thing. Because it's virtual, we can essentially sell the savings to any town in UI territory. An example of what we did in Eversource, which I think is a good, it's a great way of making use of space and some of the solar benefits. Our Middletown and Middlefield project, the benefits are going to the town of Weston and Wilton. And there's a bunch of other projects that are like that, cross-pollinating between the towns, essentially from a savings perspective. So I think I just want to emphasize from the town's perspective, it's a great savings option without really putting any dollars out there.
But so if you sell it to another town and we don't get all the benefits from it, why would we do it? Why would we give approval to ruin such a beautiful site right on the main road?
But we're not suggesting to give the savings to another town. We're coming to you.
No, I know, but you said, the good thing about it is if we can't use it all or whatever, you can sell it to someone else. Is there any other benefit to the town in the way of taxes or anything like that on this?
Yes, the equipment is under this virtual net metering program. The equipment itself is exempt from taxes, but the underlying property is going to come out of the farmland, and it's going to be reassessed, obviously, but it's just the real estate. You can take it all. We actually reviewed all of your consumption, the town's consumption. In fact, there was some push towards making this a 3 megawatt project, a little bit bigger, and we kind of limited to 2 megawatts because some of your schools are not in UI territory; they're in the other electricity territory. So you can
only one school is in the other. The 3 big schools are in this territory, in UI here.
So you can actually take the 2 megawatts and offset your bills without really stretching yourself. So there's no need. I was just walking through scenarios of the flexibility that it provides to you, that you're not bound by. If you don't want to, you don't have to take the whole thing down the road, like 10 years from down the road. Something changes. That's all I was just kind of pointing out to. There's about 169 municipalities in Connecticut. And I believe as of last year, we're going to see it this year, how many, because there's a wait list. There's about 18 or 17 towns. I think they're just taking the benefit of this because it's such a small program. Every year it opens up, it just goes away. Anyway, someone was asking a question. I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, is it possible that the UI might not want all the power generated?
That's a very good question. No, because we figure that out before, right? That's the studies that they're doing right now. If they can't take they will always be able to take the 2 megawatts from us. It's just a matter of the poles here on Forest Road. They're single phase, so we have to bring and upgrade their infrastructure to a 3-phase infrastructure and put some equipment. And we're on like the 3rd step of their studies. And they tell us, okay, if you pay us so and so many dollars, these are the equipment that we're going to put to upgrade the system, and then we can take your power. As long as physically we upgrade the system and pay for it, they will be able to take it. And if they can't take it, or the cost is prohibitive, they will let us know beforehand, before anything starts. That's one of the biggest issues that we actually have to solve for.
Kelly, can I just come in? This is Roger. Last year, we had a visit from UI, because along the UI corridor, along Route 80 corridor, a number of our manufacturers are growing fast. Ben Grove has grown about 50% in the last year. Brook and Whittle are growing fast, and UI are concerned that they don't have capacity along that corridor. And to remedy that, they would have to upgrade their capacity and pass on the cost. And we know already that UI is one of our very highest rate in the state. So by doing this, essentially, we make it easier for UI because we're providing potentially 2.5 megawatts into that corridor that's already stretched. So, and potentially, Shelley, you may come in on this, our UI consumption in the town properties on that Route 80, the town hall, the fire department, police department, the 3 schools, town hall, is running at about 700,000 a year $1,000 a year. The savings we're looking at are in the order of $70,000 to $90,000 on that.
Or maybe more, actually,
Maybe more.
because UI, that's a conservative number, I think.
Okay, there's one other, you mentioned in part of your presentation, I think I heard you say, that a local farm would get some of the power?
Yeah,
Which local farm?
Page Farm.
And why, I'm just curious, why Pages and not some other farm?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's 3 categories, as I mentioned, and there's very small cap and there's a wait list. We can go under the municipal cap. We could have done, but there's a wait list right now. And as soon as it opens, it's going to go forward. There's a state organization, which we don't qualify as the municipality. And then there's the farm agricultural piece. The way there was some space on the agricultural category, and that's why it made this possible. And then when you're in the agricultural category, the rulemakers know that, a farm is not going to be able to take a 2-megawatt project. So they allow whatever they can't take as the host customer, the town and municipalities can take it. So it's the agricultural / municipal category that we qualified in. And Page Farm actually was nice enough to be our host customer, so that we can qualify for the incentive for the virtual net metering program, to be frank. We did ask a couple of farms in the area. Page Farm was the only one that could wrap their head around it, and they said, sure, yeah, we'll do it. It's a little bit of paperwork that needs to be done.
And we're still talking with Larry Olger.
Will North Branford be under a contract?
With them?
Would North Branford be under a contract?
Yeah, if you choose to.
And what would that contract be?
So the contract would be about, it's called a virtual net metering contract, because you're getting, for example, about 20 cents a kilowatt hour of savings or bill credits. We will give you a discount, and that contract will be with us as a system owner. So it just basically memorializes, okay, I'm going to get 20 cents or whatever the rate is from UI, and I'm going to pay you this many cents, and the difference is going to be my savings.
So we're paying you 13 cents and you're paying us 7 cents.
Your savings is 7 cents, exactly. We're not really paying you, but yes, UI is effectively, yes.
So is that negotiable or is that a fixed price?
Negotiable. I mean, that's our offer.
So we could take the 13, you could take the 7?
No.
Well, that high, huh?
Yep.
So to ruin a piece of farmland like that, and you're not going to take the 7 cents?
Well, I wish we could. We would love to take the 7 cents or no cents, actually. We don't really see it as ruining the farmland. In fact, there's been a lot of studies that actually says that if you actually rested a little bit because of the...
I looked at all your other projects, and there's not another project that's on a main road.
Oh, what? Route 66? Our Middletown is on a main road.
That is set behind Middle Agway. That's set off the road.
Our project in Portland is on Main Street.
Well, can we see it? I'll have to take
So
a
do you, so in the event, if the town was under a contract, what would they be able to opt out at any time?
Yeah.
Or is it a term contract, like 10, 20, whatever?
Yeah,
years?
it's a good question. It's on the face of it, it's a 25-year contract, but there's a lot of outs on it. There's opting out periods, and there's a lot of conditions that you can get out of. We can give you multiple towns to talk to actually about this contract, because it's a municipal. We have a lot of contracts with different municipalities about this. So
Yes.
they can actually, instead of hearing it from us, you can actually talk to them.
Can you send the list to Michael and send the
I think I
location?
did already, but if I didn't, I will send it to him.
Well,
Yeah.
we want the locations too, and the contact person to talk to.
Sure.
Have you looked, is there any other area in town that you could put this where it wouldn't be seen from the main road there? Because, I mean, obviously you've been on Route 22, but that area there is kind of the showpiece of our town. I mean, that's the most beautiful area in our town. So when you put these things up, I can't think of a worse place to put them. is there any other place you could put them that would work, that we wouldn't see them?
There are, we can, usually they work on a main street frontage because we need three-phase access to be able to wheel the power. So by nature of how it needs to be wheeled over, we have to, it doesn't really work in rural areas in back country because there's a single phase, and UI basically tells us we can't take this kind of power unless you do a lot of upgrades, which, then it kind of kills the economics of the whole thing. We can't afford it. There's not that much money in these.
Aren't you running new three-phase anyway?
We will, but the three-phase run from Mill Street to 127 Forest is a very short run. It's only like less than 0.2 miles, and that's easy enough to do. Otherwise, you're like kind of winding. It's a private, we've called a lot of landlords. We looked into a lot of places. This is the one that actually fell, things seemed like falling into place. We did call a ton of properties.
This particular piece of land is owned by Mark DeLongo. And right now he rents it free of charge to Larry Auger, who's growing corn on it this year. And we happen to know that that lease arrangement will not be renewed. So it becomes DeLongo's sort of land to decide what he's going to do with it.
We actually thought that, I'd be curious to get your perspective. That whole piece of property has been under a lot of dispute for a cleanup, it seems like. We're new, so we don't really know the history, but that's what it seems like. And we just figured because not a lot of it is clean, and there's still a lot of way to go, this is a good way to give impetus to a landlord to clean up the whole property. That a lot of the non-cleaned version is abutting the houses and residences, and it kind of looks like brush. We would have thought that this would be something that would be beneficial to the town, and it's kind of a win-win situation on a property that's under kind of deep scrutiny.
Rather have brush than 25-year solar field.
What happens if, does the council, do we have to approve to enter into this contract? And if we don't, can the project still move forward?
I don't know your approval process about the contract. This, Mike can talk through it. That's the contract that we're proposing is completely elective and optional because there's a lot of savings. It's something to consider, but that's of course my, biased opinion. You guys can sign up on yourselves and let us know. We're ready to negotiate. We can still go forward if we can sell our power to another town, which we don't want to. Why would we if North Branford can take it? Would love to discuss with you even further about the benefits that we see. But the permitting process is with the siting council. So we don't really go to the siting council. Frankly, we don't go, a lot of developers, and Brad can talk to it because he does work with multiple different types of developers. They fall on their faces because they don't do what I'm doing right now. They kind of say, oh, we'll just go to the siting council. This is a large utility scale project. They don't take into account what the town wants to do, what the neighbors want to do. We actually, before we even decide to go to the planning council, we do the P&Z meetings, the wetlands meetings, all of these town council meetings. That we'll go to every meeting to actually explain ourselves to you. We don't want to be a hostile, presence where we're unwanted. There's lots of projects that we can do. So hopefully maybe we can convince you of the benefits. In theory, it can go through. Whether we'll do it or not, it's a whole different ballgame. We don't want to enforce it upon anyone.
Be a lot of negative publicity.
Can there be possible modifications? Like, for instance, a further setbacks from the either from the road or from that adjacent farmhouse there? I mean, is there anything like that can be also looked at?
Yeah, absolutely. And Brad can talk to it a little bit. We don't want to encroach wetlands because we're very environmentally sensitive. We do not want to hurt anything that, that might endanger any kind of environmental issues. I think there's a little bit of wetlands. We haven't done the wetlands delineation, but we're seeing on the desktop that in the middle of the field, there's a little bit. Brad, maybe you can talk to it. Are you still here? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brad Parsons with All Points. Yeah, so we're in the process of doing our desktop reviews and due diligence, and one of the things that we would look at is taking the initial layout that Chella has kind of shown here, taking into account some of the natural resources, taking into account some of the concerns that I'm hearing today from the council, and doing everything we can to look at the ways that will allow for this project to be screened as much as possible. Whether it's pulling those setbacks back, looking at the way that this property lays out and the original layout there may be the ability to move this a little bit to the north and to the west, which would pull it a little bit further away from the street there. And once we have all of the natural resources delineated and reviewed, those would be things that we would try and do.
Okay.
I move to table this until we get the information that we requested, which is the locations and the contacts with the towns, and we could do a little further research on it.
Yeah, I'll second Mike's motion.
Okay, motion was made by Councilor Duty, seconded by Councilor Fornan. Any further discussion? Michelle, can we have a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
your
Chella.
time.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Next, we have award of bid number 1, 2020-2021, rental of portable toilets for town parks and recreation / Board of Ed.
I'd like to make a motion to award bid number 1, 2020-21 to Global Site Services.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All right, motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Gold. No discussion, I assume. Can we have a vote? Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
All right. Next is approval of additions to the suspense list.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, on an annual basis, the tax collector prepares a list of accounts that he's exhausted efforts on, that have gone through the state marshal, that have gone through the collection agency, and they remain on our books. To be clear to the new counselors, this by no means is erasing these debts off the books. Basically, it's providing a cleaner accounts receivable list. Some people on here may still be in town. They may be playing games with the registrations and changing names, but some of these folks are on there you see for several years. And all this does basically, again, it doesn't erase the person's debt. It just takes it from one part of the accounts receivable listing and puts it on the suspense list. We do annually collect money from people that are on the suspense list. Not any great amounts, quite honestly. Most of these people, the motor vehicle piece is very difficult to collect. Person is here on October 1 and then will move out of town and or move out of state, and it's impossible to collect. This current year, to give you an idea, we've collected about $2,000 It's all people that are on the suspense list. So some of the cases on there are people who are deceased. We do attempt to contact Attorney Forgione when probate matters are in place and get on list if people do have estates. Aside from that, it's primarily people that in the personal property world, it's people that are out of business. There's no formal process when you close your doors. If you have been in business, we send you bills, you close your doors and walk away for personal property. There's no recourse that we have if that person relocated to another town or just decided to fold up their business. There's no way for us to go after personal property.
I'd like to make a motion, be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council accepts the recommendation of the tax collector and agrees to put the following taxpayers on the list provided on the suspense list pursuant to CGS 12-165.
Second.
Okay, well, motion was made by Councilor Diamond, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Any further discussion? Can we have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? Anyone abstain?
Okay. We'll move on. Appropriation transfers is next.
Appropriation transfers, the largest you'll see on there, as Mr. Marola has been warning throughout the entire year, there's a significant amount of tree cost. He was able to cover $102,000 of that due to some savings in overtime, thanks to the mild winter and some other costs that he has in there. At the bottom of the page, that's just a transfer that as per the budget, we budget that self-insurance deductible in the insurance category and then operating transfer it out to that self-insurance fund.
Anthony, I have a question, or maybe Franny too. So in our budget deliberations this year, there was $25,000 proposed in capital for small equipment for the 2021, which we deleted, and because Franny said he would have enough money in this year's budget to do that.
That's
So
correct.
are we going to see an appropriation transfer at some point in time for that?
Yes, you will. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Marola and I worked on that today, and in the next week or so, he will finalize his numbers, and probably for your July meeting, we'll have a transfer to cover that piece of it, definitely.
Okay. I just don't want it to get lost.
Negative.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the appropriation transfers as recommended by the town manager and the finance director.
Second by Tom.
Okay, motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Any further discussion? Michelle, can you have a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
All right, next we have financial report as of May 31st, 2020.
So the financial report you have in front of you, again, items that we typically focus on, the top line being property tax collections, just about on target with the year before, 99.1 compared to 99.6, nothing too crazy. Still strong collections in the area of delinquent taxes, which are favorable to us. Overall revenue appears to be 1% or so behind, but nothing to be too concerned about. On the expense side, again, on page 66 in the tablet, you'll see that the technology line in total appears to be overexpended, but in the true out-the-door expenditures, it's not quite overexpended yet. Nothing to be concerned about. In total, the report remains unremarkable as we're coming to the end of the year. It looks like we have another successful year in the black and be able to add to the fund balance.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. No motion, don't need a motion?
Negative.
No, there's no.
All right, very good. Okay, next is approval of tax refunds.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, who made the?
Joe.
Okay,
Joe and Marie.
Swann and Counselor Diamond.
okay, you have that, Michelle?
I do.
Okay, I don't have to say it, that's good. Any discussion on that? Okay, just, vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Okay, next is, G, discussion on funding the police department building project.
Tabling that.
Okay. You making the motion, Mike?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to table it.
I'll second.
Who's that, Marie?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Counselor Judy and Counselor Diamond.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay. Can we have a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thanks.
Okay. Did you want to do a roll call on that? No, okay, all right. Okay, very good. All right, next we have citizen statements and petitions. Michael, do you have anything?
Just give me 1 second, let me check that.
All right.
A couple comments on the Facebook, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to read those.
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Early on, when Mike Paul was talking about the opening of the gyms and such, there was a comment by Antonio Giuseppe saying he thought the gyms were opening tomorrow, as well as the libraries. Cliff Potter had asked who owns the property, where the panels go, and then Liz Kaplan filled him in that it was Mark DeLongo. When the council was talking about the array and would there be sunflowers or fence around it, Liz Kaplan commented that it wasn't true that the sunflowers would not be seen. The sunflowers are on the direct road. The land is not as visible from the road as where Larry's fields are currently, so it's a little bit hidden. And then Cliff Potter had mentioned, thanks to the council members for your hard work. Please keep on task for the 3 major projects our town needs done.
Okay. All right.
And Mr. Mayor,
All right, thank them. Thank you, Anthony, for giving us that. I think next is executive session.
Just, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the issue earlier under the town manager's report about the Jerome Harrison repair, so I looked up the minutes, and at the October 1st meeting of 2019, we had a public hearing, and we also voted, and it passed to amend the ordinance. It was 2000, let me see when's here. It's proposed ordinance 2019-1 purchasing ordinance, and that motion passed 7-0. So there is something that we did. So Mike, if you could just look up and see what exactly that is and get back to the Board of Ed.
Sure.
And just let us know, but we did take action on that.
Yeah, great. I'll talk to, I'll reach out to Bill Chody tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Okay, I believe next is executive session. Is that the way we're doing it? We have to make a motion to.
You gotta move to go into executive session, make that motion.
Second.
Okay, who seconded?
Rose.
Rose.
What are we going in for, Joe, and who's gonna be in there?
Yeah.
You're gonna ask the tough questions, Mike.
The fire leases.
Yeah, it was a fire department lease.
I don't want Vinny to yell at